Welcome everyone to this presentation video for the game The Spirit of Eden. This is a single-player card and dice game. The story of The Spirit of Eden takes place in a fantasy world. In this world, there is a king, King Asmoth. He's a brutal and limitless conqueror, and indeed very interested in the land of Eden. He will attempt to invade Eden by sending some Goomz, evil creatures under his control. The Goomz will ravage and destroy Eden so that King Asmoth can build his new evil city there. But what the king does not know is that in Eden lives a protective spirit called Noah. Noah will ally himself with the forces of nature, water, fauna, and flora in order to defeat the invader. Now let's take a look at the contents of the box. As you can see, there is a compact box, easy to transport, a box that you can take wherever you want. Inside we have 3 tokens representing the forces of nature, therefore the allies of Noah, 3 meeples, 1 red, 1 yellow, 1 black, representing the Goomz herds, 4 6-faced dice, a deck of cards, and a rulebook. Now we are going to see the setup for a game of The Spirit of Eden. Let's place the Noah card in the middle of the table. Around this card, we will place the terrain cards. All of these cards represent Eden, mountains, forests, swamps, and waterfalls. These are to be randomly placed all around Noah. Then we have the cards representing the herds of Goomz that we will have to defeat, the yellows, the reds, and blacks. Then we have the cards that represent the allies, flora, water, and fauna, that we will shuffle. On one side of the ally cards, the ally is represented, and on the other side are specified the objectives to achieve to win the game. After being shuffled, the ally cards are placed in 3 separate decks of 3 cards under each Goomz card. Next, we randomly placed the 3 Goomz meeples on the left side of the Eden. Then, we also place randomly the 3 ally tokens on the right-hand side of Eden. Finally, we placed the 4 action cards. These are the cards that would allow us to carry out actions with our allies in order to defeat the Goomz. The installation is finished. We can start the first round. As discussed earlier, here we have the objective cards, which are very important. When starting the game, we need to flip the first objective card of each deck. Remember, each deck is associated with the herd of Goomz, the yellow, the red, and black. Objective cards are fairly straightforward to understand. This one, for example, tells us that we must trap the yellow herd of Goomz, meaning the yellow meeple, with the water ally on the waterfall terrain card. There are 2 terrain cards each. The waterfall terrain cards are here and there. We must therefore trap the yellow meeple with the water token in one of these terrain cards. For the herd of red Goomz, we need to trap them with the fauna token on a forest terrain card. For the herd of black Goomz, we have to trap them with the flora token, also on a forest terrain card. When the objectives are revealed, the game can begin. We roll the 4 dice, and we are going to associate each of these dice with one of the actions present on the action cards. Each action card is associated with a result from 1 to 6. We must place up to 1 die per action card, and we are not obliged to use all the dice during a round. The objective of the game is to defeat all of the invaders, and that will happen when these 3 decks of objectives are emptied. Indeed, when we succeed in an objective, we draw the objective card in question. The deck will therefore progressively reduce. When there are no more objective cards under a Goomz card, we remove the meeple representing that Goomz from the game. Now let's see the possible actions. This one is the movement action. It allows us to move an ally by one terrain or card. It can move clockwise or counterclockwise, but never diagonally. Below we have the same action, which allows us to move by two terrain cards. The next one is the shield action on a terrain card. We will see the action phase of the Goomz later, but when Goomz are on a terrain card, it will attack. The shield action gives a chance to protect it against this attack. Then we have the action to repel an ally or a Goomz herd that is on our terrain card. Here we have the action to attract an ally or a Goomz herd who is on an adjacent card. Finally, we have the action allowing to swap two Goomz herds. For example, we can swap the yellow meeple with the red meeple. We have other actions on this card. Here we have the trap action. When we have met the conditions for an objective, we can trap the Goomz herd. In this case, the water ally must trap the yellow Goomz on a waterfall terrain card. If we meet these conditions and perform the trap action, then, during the Goomz phase, the yellow Goomz will be trapped, and they will therefore flee on the next card. And we earn its objective card. Here we have the heal action. When the Goomz attack terrain cards, they will ravage the territories. Thanks to this action, we can heal the ravaged territories. Be careful, if a territory is ravaged twice without being healed, it is destroyed. It will therefore be removed from the game entirely, and it can no longer be healed. This is a movement of 3 cards. The next one is the possibility of doing the repel action, but 2 cards away. And finally, we have the option to swap 2 allies. This is one last action not yet presented. This is the shortcut action. This action allows us to move from one terrain card to another identical terrain card. Now that we have seen all the possible actions, we're going to play a first round to show how the game works. I tweaked the setup a bit to make the video easier. The Spirit of Eden is a game that will require a lot of concentration. Many possibilities are available to the player to lead them to victory. They'll have to make the right moves at the right time. In this case, let's focus on the red Goomz herd. Its objective is to trap them with the fauna in a forest terrain card. We can therefore use our die 6 to use the shortcut action to go from this forest to this one. Once we are in this forest, we can do the trap action with the die 1. The red Goom is therefore trapped. To remind us of it, we place it on the ally token. To complete our actions, we have a 4 and a 3. Available actions are protect or repel. But in this case, we have nothing interesting to play. This allows me to mention a special rule. After having rolled the 4 dice, we have the possibility of discarding a die to re-roll another. The discarded die cannot be used, but here we can re-roll our last die. We roll a 2, this can allow us to do the double movement action. We will use it on the water ally token and move it by 2 cards. The player phase is over. The player phase corresponds to the allied phase. We will therefore mainly move our allies and sometimes the Goomz. Each round has 2 phases. The allies phase, or the player's phase, and the Goomz phase. The allies phase being over, we'll move on to the Goomz phase. The Goomz phase will always act the same. They will ravage the terrain card they are on. We can do the Goomz actions in any order we want. Here, the black Goomz will ravage the mountain card. When a terrain card is ravaged, we flip it to show the same illustration, but in black and white, to remind us that it's ravaged. Be careful, if a Goomz ravages this card once again, in the next round for example, the card is destroyed, the terrain is therefore removed. There is only one defeat condition. As soon as 2 identical terrain cards are destroyed, either 2 mountains, 2 forests, 2 waterfalls, or 2 swamps, the game is over. So here the mountains are ravaged. Those Goomz attack the terrain, but since we trap them, it has no effect. Due to the trap, the Goomz flee on the next card clockwise. For these last Goomz, we did not protect the card with protection action. We did not trap them either, because we could not, and they did not follow our objectives. We just placed our ally on the same card as them, so instead of ravaging the terrain, they will make our ally flee. We will still somehow protect the card, but with a negative effect. Indeed, when an inactive ally is on the same card as Goomz, the ally will be sent to the Noah card to recover. The negative effect is the following. When our ally is sent back to Noah, it will not be available for the next round. It will be stuck. So we have to think carefully about doing this kind of action, because it can make a next round more complicated. We successfully completed this objective, so we can collect the objective card and place it near us. We then reveal the next objective. This new objective tells us that we need to trap the red Goomz with water on a swamp card. Objective cards sometimes offer a one-time bonus. It is displayed at the bottom left of the card. Here we have a die surrounded by an arrow. This bonus allows us to re-roll a die for free, without discarding one. When the bonus has been used, we will simply turn the card around as a reminder. These bonuses are not present on all objective cards. They're quite helpful and valuable. The Goomz have finished their actions, the round is over, it is that simple. We can collect the 4 dice and we can start a new round. Rolling the 4 dice and it's on again. Let's imagine the rest of the game. In this case we have a challenge. These 2 herds of Goomz must be trapped with water, and our water token is blocked at Noah for this round. It was probably not a very smart move. On the other hand, the black Goomz must be trapped with flora on a forest. We can probably approach a forest while waiting for the Goomz to arrive and trying to protect the other terrain cards with the other allies. So the balance of the game is going to be between what one does to act on the objectives and what one does to slow down the destruction of Eden. It is a game that requires a great concentration, and we need to think several moves ahead to get closer to victory. The Spirit of Eden offers a real challenge. One last possible action is the power of Noah. Noah has the power to choose the side of a die after a roll. This power can only be performed once per game. Once it has been used, we will flip the Noah card on its black and white side to remind us that it has been used. When an objective deck of a herd of Goomz is empty, we must remove the Goomz meeple from the game, and when we've completed all the objectives, you win the game. Once again, there is only one victory condition and one defeat condition. Defeat condition, 2 identical terrain cards are destroyed and removed from the game. Victory condition, all objectives are completed. So far I presented you the classic mode to play the Spirit of Eden, but there are in fact 6 different game modes. The first, the classic mode, is only the first one. And the other 5 modes are in fact additional challenges to be added on the classic mode. We have the possibility to choose only one of these challenges or to combine some or all of them. The second game mode is the Celestial mode. In this mode, Goomz cannot be trapped on a ravaged terrain card in black and white. It is mandatory to heal the ravaged terrain in order to trap Goomz on it. Then, there is the Fearless mode. This mode forbids us using bonuses present on the objective cards. Next, we have the Resurrection mode. In this mode, the game starts with 2 terrain cards of our choice positioned on the Ravage side, black and white. We then have the Ravage mode. This is quite a complicated mode. When the objectives of a herd of Goomz are completed and its deck is empty, the meeple is not removed from the game. This herd of Goomz will still be able to ravage and destroy terrain cards. Finally, we have the Weakness mode. Before a dice roll, we must flip one of the 4 action cards of our choice. It will be locked and unavailable during the round. If over time you manage to master the classic mode, you can add one of these constraints, then add several. The Spirit of Eden is therefore a puzzle game that will adapt to all levels and offer you hours and hours of entertainment. My name is Ryan Higley for Alone Editions. I was very happy to present you the Spirit of Eden in English and wish you a great day.